before we move on to your broadcasting career, I do have to ask you, because he is such a legend now, but, you know, like you, I grew up idolizing this man, Bo Schembechler. What was it like to cover Bo?
Well, the first time I covered Bo Schembechler at Old Michigan Stadium, where the press box was like in the front, you know, they don't have these two huge buildings on each side of it now and the scoreboards. I mean, it was a small little press box, and it had various floors, and they used to have like a media day for everybody, and I was a freshman and I wanted to go, and so I did, and it was a big luncheon and all this kind of stuff. And I remember I was going to use the restroom, and Bo walks out. You know, he would address the media. This was a luncheon. Everybody sits to the media. We all kind of eat. You know, everyone's in a good mood. They get free food and all that kind of stuff. And then Bo would address about the team, and you could ask him questions. You know, your typical kind of luncheon presser kind of thing. And so, but I was new to this. You know, I was 17 years old. You know, I'm a freshman at the University of Michigan. And so either he was walking in and I was walking out, or it could have been the other way around. It was a while ago. And he looked at me, and he could tell that, you know, I'm fresh face, you know,
Sure.
hair down to here, you know, I'm the freaky, you know, that was the style back then, you know, wearing painter's pants probably, and, you know, a decent shirt, I hope. And he said, "Well, son," he goes, how are you enjoying everything? How was the food?
Wow, that's cool.
And I'm like, I swear to God, I mean, because I'm high strung, you know, and I was shaking because I had gone to Michigan games my whole life. I was there at, you know, Woody tearing up the sideline marker, all that stuff. My dad, you know, that was the only thing he ever, you know, sprung for season tickets was Michigan football. And I was like, you know, I mean, seriously, if I strung two words that were coherent together, I was doing well. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, I guess it must have been good," you know, and proceeded, you know, out, you know. So that was my first time. But then over the years, obviously, I got to know him really, really well. And, you know, he would always say to me, which I guess to me made me feel good, but he'd say, "You know, Regner," and he always called me Regner. He never called me Art or Arthur or anything. He'd go, "You know, Regner, I don't think you know a lick about football, but you love Michigan." That's what he would always say to me. And I say, you know what? He's probably right. You know, I don't get caught up in the X's and O's of anything, you know? I mean, I'm pretty adept at what's going on in hockey because I've covered it for so long, and, you know, not that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm not sitting there after a Lions game recording it and then breaking it down play by play or anything. You know, I don't care that much. And so, and I'm not saying everybody who does it, you know, people are different. More power to you. If that's the way you like to do your thing, go ahead. You know, like I said, I respect that. So I think it was just great covering it for him. I remember him being mad when they lost to Miami and Jimmy Johnson got a call overturned, and he came in and he was just on a tirade about how a visiting coach could work the officials like that at Michigan Stadium. And, you know, I saw, you know, highs and lows of him. But I really, really, you know, when he resigned as Michigan's coach, then I saw him at the Tigers. I've always felt that he got a really bum rap about the whole Ernie Harwell thing, which I won't get into. But, you know, I thought he was great. Now, the one thing that Bo and I did not do is that we did not talk politics because he would, you know, he'd like, "You're such a Ann Arbor kid that way. You're such a Michigan guy," you know, and all that kind of stuff. Because, you know, Michigan, I don't know where they're at now, but they were definitely pretty liberal back then. And so, you know, but that was about it. I mean, a wonderful man. I mean, I've been blessed, Ron. I mean, if I really, really look at it, the guys that I was able to cover, Bo, even Nick Saban. I always liked Nick Saban. You know, he'd always come in there at Michigan State, stand up there, and first he'd oversee everybody, kind of look around and go, "How y'all doing?" That's how he, it's like, okay, you know, I thought he was a great, tremendous coach. I really did, even back then. It's easy for me to say that now, but, you know, even Nick Saban, Red Berenson at Michigan, just an iconic legend. But I could just say from Sparky Anderson to, to Scotty Bowman, who I believe is the greatest coach in all of sport history. And I'm a big John Wooden fan, too. Chuck Daly, good friend of mine, love Chuck Daly. So I've had some real cream of the crop people that I was able to cover and get to know. And that's one of the things that I really cherish is when you're privileged to do what I do, and I've always said it beats working for a living, you do build up personal relationships with them, yet you have to stay true to your profession. And if you have to criticize and say something wrong or ask a tough question, you have to do it. You just have to do it. And, if you sit there and criticize, there was a point where my Lions rants were so big and I would go off the hook that the next day, and I had a relationship with Mark Carrier. We did Channel 50 together Sunday nights all the time. And, Carrier would always say, "Oh, you're going to come in and say that?" And I knew that if I was going to criticize someone or, especially the Lions, because I was really pretty intense about them, I knew that I had to go in the room.